Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. You are here for my weekly catch-up on reading. Right up front, I decided to get all my miserableness out of the way in one go. If you were here earlier this week for my slump video, I talked a little bit about things have not been the greatest lately, and so I went and got my booster yesterday so that I can just feel the lowest of energy and brain fog all while I'm feeling terrible as it is. So, I'm just a little not all here. And I also am coming to you from the past, future people. It is currently Saturday. However, today is the day that the BookTube Prize is being announced while I'm filming this. And so my BookTube Prize wrap-up is going to be coming out today for me. And for you all, it's Sunday. So I'm going to hold off a day to give me time for this to upload so I don't have to stress about it getting uploaded and all of that and editing and nonsense. So you're seeing this a day later, you don't care, it's fine. So on to the books. First I read or looked at Cats on Catnip. I'm not going to count this toward any reading goals, but I thought I would share it with you. This is from Andrew Marttila, and Andrew I know of because Kitten Lady Hannah is a very famous advocate for cats, and Andrew is her partner. I think actually they're married now. They're either still engaged or they just got married recently. But he's also a pet photographer, so he loves taking pictures of cats, obviously. So it's literally just delightful pictures of cats. I needed something to kind of be cheerful and distracting, and so I picked that up from my library. I don't think this is something I would buy, but it was really fun to look through. Then, onto the Victober, kind of unplanned or aggressively overplanned, maybe. Myself and Shannon from That's So Poe had talked about maybe buddy reading this like a couple of months ago and said a general range of September, October, and then it came up at the end of September and we just finished it, and that is The Warden by Anthony Trollope. And this was really delightful. It was a really charming book. So this is obviously Victorian literature. This is the first in the Barsetshire series by Trollope. This is a perennial favorite on BookTube, so I can't imagine I'm going to say anything unexpected about it. The warden of the title is kind of caring for these elderly men. It's referenced as a hospital, but I gather it's kind of more like retirement home type situation where he's caring for their social and spiritual needs at the end of their lives. And he is taking a stipend, basically, his pay as part of this setup for these retirees, and they get a certain amount out of the funds that have been allocated as well. However, someone, I will say from the community, steps up and points out that maybe he's taking more than he should be, and the balance should be different between himself and the men that are there. And so this is very much about the human element of these people all having the best of intentions, people on both sides of the matter, disagreeing, even though they all think they are very right. They have this moral righteousness to them, and things spiraling out of their control as it becomes a legal matter. And so this is very comedic and satirical in that way. It's really looking at the way they lose control of it socially. It becomes about reputation and manners with each other. It was very, very charming and enjoyable to read about these people's quibbles. But I also think I only got about 2/3 of it. So I think that was the main detractor. I really enjoyed this, but I didn't get the whole book because it was so much a satire of its time. That 2/3 was the interpersonal dramas, and then the other third was things you needed to know that were going on at the time that are very set in their time and place, like things to do with pamphlets and popular publishing at the time. Like, I don't know anything about that. And even with this edition, this is the Penguin Classic edition, there are a lot of footnotes, and some of them give context for that. It still isn't like fully understandable for me personally. So I know some people really love this and it's a favorite, and they, perennially go back to it for Victober. For me, it was enjoyable, and I think I would probably continue on with the series, but I don't think it was a new favorite, and I think I didn't get the entirety of the book. But what I did get, I really, really enjoyed. Then I have two things that were up for the Hugo this year that has already come and gone. They were not the winners, but I didn't get to. And now I just got to them both coincidentally this week. The first, very much by accident, was The Past is Red by Catherynne and Valente. And if you've been around, you know I love Valente's work. I've read multiple other books by her this year. And this one was, as I said, total accident in that I had borrowed the ebook thinking it was an audiobook. I had incorrectly tagged it on Libby. And so that was last time when I finished up an audiobook. Didn't get around to it, but left it checked out. And then I finished up my ebook and was looking for something new. And I was like, oh, I still have that. I've only got 5 days left on it. We'll try and get to it. So I've been reading it on my phone and just in moments here and there when I'm walking the dog, and ended up reading it and got really into it and had to kind of rush to finish it. But I did finish it and really, really enjoyed it. It is a near future sci-fi and climate fiction where the world is completely covered in water, and so these people are living on floating garbage. And it's really interesting because it kind of considers what that world would look like to some degree, but it's mostly a personal story. So you're following this character, Tetley, and she's difficult because she is so brash, and she's been kind of abused by her community for something that she did. And she's become almost a whipping boy because she did something horrible to the community. And so they, by law, are allowed to treat her terribly. And she can't really do anything about it, and she doesn't try to do anything about it. She just has to forgive them for it. And so the theme of forgiveness does have a lot of a through line through this whole story. So I think overall it's not hopeful. I don't think it has heart. I would say the story does have heart, and it's very innovative. Now, Valente, as always, has a really distinct prose style. This one in particular is even more word soupy than usual Valente. She does have that quality, but here, because of the situation, the prose is just a mesh of popular terms, brand names, slang, just all over the place. A lot of swearing too. There's a lot of like unkindness, violence, swearing definitely in this, but yet it's not dark. It still feels like there's some levity to it. She feels sarcastic through it all, or that's how she deals with it. So she has a certain sense of humor. And I think that prose element, like she has, for instance, two animals that are kind of her pets. One of them she calls Big Bargains, and the other is Purple Crush. And her name, Tetley, obviously is from trash as well. So that's kind of how they name things, and the way they process the world is influenced by being surrounded by garbage. And so we see the things that they do hope for. We see her have relationships with other people in Garbage Town, and kind of the hopes and dreams of the people there. And so I thought it was just a really, really well crafted book and really enjoyed it. But it wasn't my favorite of her work. It wasn't my favorite of the Hugo's books for sure. Then the final book that I finished this week is Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This one you can't talk about plot too much. Basically, the only thing I can talk about is the style, the format, kind of. So from a plot perspective, I think if you've heard about this at all, you already know, and it's not a spoiler, that this kind of mixes sci-fi and fantasy. So we are starting from a character, Lynn, who is kind of in this primitive race. So we've got a primitive race and an elder race sort of on this planet, and she is coming to seek help from this elder that is kind of living up in a tower on their planet because they are beset by a demon. And the whole conceit of this is that the primitive race kind of sees all these things as magic that the elder race actually knows are technology. So that's where it's kind of the meshing of sci-fi and fantasy. And what is so cool about this is that you are getting alternating chapters from each perspective. So you get to see the same scenes processed through the lens of a primitive not understanding and viewing it as magic, and then the elder race as it's technology, it's science. And so this chapter in particular, there's only one chapter like this, but this chapter has both perspectives happening side by side. And I thought that was very cool, where you're getting literally the same story told through two different lenses. And so you do alternating chapters through the rest of it. So much of this is about the character who is the elder race is literally an anthropologist. So there's very much anthropology to this. This is so much about worldview and perspective, as well as language and communication or miscommunication. There are huge chunks of this that have to do with the struggle to communicate with each other, and the fact that this elder race kind of knows an antiquated form of the language, and so it's things that he's trying to get across are not coming across the way that he means. So yeah, I really loved this. I think this was definitely a 5-star. For the Hugos, this was probably my favorite from a craft perspective. Like, this was a properly well done, well thought out, and thought-provoking novella. And it actually manages the length really, really well. But I think Song for the Wild Built was my, like, emotionally favorite. So they probably are tied in terms of how much I love them as books, but Song for the Wild Built was my favorite and the winner for the novella. So yeah, I'm really glad to have finally read through the Hugo eligible stuff and really, really enjoyed both of these. In terms of stuff I want to get to this weekend, I have Maria. I would like to get to another couple short stories in there. I would love to read more of A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I got about a third through and I'm really enjoying this one. I also am still chipping away at The Queens of Innis Lear, still chunky, still slow going. And then the last one is the one I want to start this weekend, is Fish Swimming in Dappled Sunlight by Riku Onda. This is a translated Japanese thriller. I think this one's going to be a quick, like, fly through. And that is it for my reading for the week in terms of what I have physically. I did start a new ebook. I don't know if I want to mention it yet because it's a self-published and it's very long. If it continues on how it's going, it might be a new favorite of the year. So don't want to jinx it. And then on audio, I already mentioned last week that I'm working on Foundryside as a reread on audio. Really, really enjoying it still. I'm like 2/3 of the way through. So I want to quickly do recommendations here before we get into life stuff. And I just have a couple. So first, I want to really strongly recommend Fit to Be Read, who is a very prolific sci-fi reader, did a 210 top sci-fi list. And it is a real feat. It's very long, so it's a couple hours long. I'm only an hour in at this point, but it's really stellar. Not only did he get his own feelings on this, he has video clips from a number of booktubers, a number of authors introducing the books and talking about why they also love some of these books on the list. And some of them are very innovative. It's really like a full multimedia experience. So I'm going to chunk it up and watch it in little bits at a time. And so it's going to give me a lot to enjoy for a while. And I think you should definitely check it out. He really put a lot of effort into putting this together into a really cool experience to watch. The other one is Ink and Paper Blog. Russell does this every year, but he did a video discussion about the National Book Award long list, and just hearing them talk through the individual books and the qualities of them and why they might be on the list. And specifically in this list, it kind of sideswiped everyone, right? So there were a lot of books and short story collections on here that most people had never heard of. So I think them talking through the list and what the qualities of these books were really is helpful because they were not really on anybody's radar prior to this. So yeah, I will leave links to both of those down below. So onward to the week. I think I'm going to not include anything actually in terms of like normal, like everything usual happenings in my week. This is going to include sad pet stuff basically. So if you want to avoid that, you can cut off here and you are not going to miss anything. That is going to be the remainder of my video today. So I'm going to try to keep it together. But last week, not the past week, but the prior week, Koko, my foster cat, who has been with me since 2020, he stopped eating, and he has had pretty advanced kidney disease since January of 2021. So very much at that point, he became a hospice situation. He has not been available for adoption since then. And so I knew that he would be here as a lifetime commitment for me. So that has been a lot of medical care for him, and ever increasing. The past few weeks, I've been making trips to the vet pretty much weekly to get him pain medication and other things that he needed. And so it's been a lot of work to keep him going, and he just kind of finally decided it was time. And so this week he did actually pass away. So that's kind of emotional, and I mean, I'm fine. Like, it's taken the wind out of my sails a little bit, but you know, this is something I very much knew was coming for such a long time, almost 2 years now. And the shelter has been absolutely great. There was never a point where, you know, they put any pressure on me or even questioned, like, the fact that he was having constant medical needs. We've been to the vet over a dozen times in 2 years. We've had constant medications. I think he was on 8 daily medications and fluids daily for the past almost year, probably. And it's just ever increased. So there was never any questions. So I got a ton of support from the shelter. They were really great. And I just really appreciate having gone through this experience with the shelter because of that. And the fact that, you know, they assured that he, as an old cat, even before they knew he was sick, you know, we didn't know when he came into the shelter. We knew he was coming from a loved home, that he had been a solo cat, and he had lived there his whole life, and he was about 13 when he came in. And he had a loving home before, and seniors often don't do very well in the shelter adjusting after that. So they made sure he didn't go into the shelter. He spent about a half an hour at the shelter in his carrier and transferred directly to me. So he went from a home where he was loved for his whole life to another home where he was loved for the end of his life. And I'm just very happy that you know, I got to be part of that. The other thing that's been going on is, to get this all out of in one go, is that things with my own dog, Cinnamon, have not been going the greatest. So I noticed a little more than a month ago that he had lost a pretty substantial amount of weight. He lost a pound, basically, since his regular yearly checkup in April. So that's a very large amount of weight to lose in terms of a percentage of your body when you're a 16-pound, now 15-pound dog. So Rue is actually bigger than Cinnamon now. But he's been acting so well. Like, his behavior-wise and his activity level have been almost like the best of his entire life. So there's been nothing there to tell me he's not doing well. So I took him into the vet and did blood work, and overall, you know, he's doing okay. He doesn't seem to want to eat dry food anymore. So that's part of the problem, which he has always been very food motivated, extremely food motivated, and he still is. He's still like begging me for food all the time. He will outright beg and whine to try and get cat food. So I have to very carefully make sure he doesn't get the cat food, because he is on prescription food. So I have spent the past month, as I've been going through Koko declining, with Cinnamon also. So I was running to one vet for Koko every couple days, or every week, and then every week about running to the other vet, to my dog's vet, for a different type of prescription food. So we've been through 3 different prescription dry foods beyond his original, and trying them out. He's still not doing great with dry food. He's really not wanting to eat it. So he's mostly on a canned wet food now. That seems to be working, and his weight, it has stabilized, it looks like. But we did get back blood work that was not great. So his liver enzymes not that that means anything to most of you, are doing worse, even though he's on medications that were supposed to kind of stabilize that. So ultimately, he's an old dog, and that's kind of to be expected. I don't know how old he is exactly, but I got him in 2011, and he was already an adult at that point. They kind of estimated that he was 2 or 3 years old. So unfortunately, I'm dealing with a senior aging dog now as well, and we've been through multiple health scares and kind of stabilized him with the prescriptions that he's been on for a while. And he's been doing so very well that now it's just really hard to hear that, you know, his internal condition is worsening as he's getting older. So I'm having to face that as well. So that's been a lot to deal with and process all at once in the past couple weeks. In terms of Cinnamon, everything is actually like fine. He's still going out and walking with me like at least a mile every day. We do multiple little walks, or we do a full loop. My neighborhood is a single loop that's a mile, and he's been doing great. Like behaviorally, I'm super happy with where he's at, and so I'm not trying to worry about that too much in terms of his health and well-being until he's showing me signs that he's not doing well. But yeah, we're just still trying to work out like getting him to eat everything that I want him to eat, because he's always been such a little chonk that it's never been a problem before, and so now this is really weird to have to deal with on the day-to-day basis. So I think that is it. That's what I'm going to leave you with the pet stuff and just kind of everything that's been going on. I'm sure that, you know, that's hard to hear for some people. So if you stuck around this long, I appreciate it. And I'm going to leave you with some clips of Koko, because I had shared some of these clips with the shelter. Some of them were for that, because they like to check in and see how the pets are doing that are in homes. But a lot of them are videos that I have because I shared him with you all. And I think a lot of people have come to love my pets as well, because they see them every week and everything. So so I will leave you with some happy moments of Koko in all of our lives. Thank you all so very much for watching. I wasn't trying to work or anything here. I have a not-so-laptop because the laps have more important business. And you guessed it. Koko snoozing on the electric blanket. Got a good stretch going on. And a Ripley butt warmer. You're so silly, bud. Stuff, Koko? You gotta get on the grass. Yay! You're such a weirdo. Is grass so good on your body? Koko! Hey, Koko! What? Do you hear your name? Is that your name? Yeah, call it. It's in the house. Koko is extremely sneaky. I barely see him there. Such a good hidey cat. Koko is being very trusting. Normally Rue would, like, pounce him. Koko! Boy, good boy! Where do you think you're going? Where are you going? Oh, just doing a nice cuddle. That's so sweet. Doing a good boy. Yeah, you know you're loved. Yeah, you're loved a lot, buddy. Yeah, you're loved a lot. Hey, Koko. As you can see, Koko still loves his brushy arch. He would stand here and do this all day if he didn't have such a grueling schedule of naps. Huh, Koko? Good stuff. Yeah, you're goofy. I'm talking about you. Koko face. Oh, that's a good boy. Hi, Koko face. How nice. Got the badgers. What a good boy. Koko, good impressions.